Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Daily Debate. My name is Ahmed Nader and tonight we'll be focusing on the latest arrangements between Egypt and Lebanon under the directives of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to be supplying Lebanon with the Egyptian gas through the Arab gas pipeline running through Jordan and Syria as well, to be alleviating the burdens on the electricity grid of Lebanon and to be solving the issue of the power outages in the country. Of course, we'll be focusing on this sector in Egypt as well, the power sector, the energy sector, and how we solved our own problems ever since the 2013 revolution under the tenure of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and managing in the process to be solving the issues in other Arab countries such as Lebanon. Today we have a top story, and it comes through the presidential activities of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi today on Sunday, and the meeting of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi with the South Sudanese President Salva Kiir. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met with the visiting South Sudanese President Salva Kiir at the Ittihadiyya Palace. Following the meeting, the two leaders held a press conference. President al-Sisi confirmed the importance of enhancing the bilateral cooperation in all fields of mutual interest. He also welcomed the recent deals with Juba in irrigation and industry. He added that he had agreed with Kiir on regularly holding the Supreme Cooperation Committee, as well as continuing the political consultations through the foreign ministries of both countries. President al-Sisi said that Egypt was looking forward to increasing mutual trade to boost the bilateral, industrial and investment cooperation through increasing the access of Egyptian goods in the South Sudanese markets. Egypt will also help with revamping and improving the power grids in South Sudan, noting that Cairo will continue supporting peace and security in South Sudan. That is the main top story for the Daily Debate for today, coming from the presidential activities of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and means of strengthening the bilateral cooperation and bilateral trade between Egypt and South Sudan. As for the first report of the Daily Debate for tonight, we'll be focusing on the presidential activity of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, but on Saturday within Egypt, the visit of President al-Sisi to Turathuna, or Our Heritage exhibition in Egypt at the 5th settlement, and to be discussing our heritage and our Egyptian handicrafts that were going through generations, from one generation to another, all through the history of the country. We'll be having more details in the upcoming report, so let's see it.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi opened on Saturday the third edition of Turathna, Our Heritage exhibition for handicrafts and heritage products at Cairo International Exhibition Center. While touring a number of displayed products, President al-Sisi pledged to support this industry so as to make great leap in this sector. Minister of Trade and Industry Niveen Gema said that as many as 1,500 local exhibitors nationwide are participating in this year's edition. She added that the exhibition also includes pavilions to display products from the UAE, Jordan and Sudan. The exhibition is organized by the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency and shows traditional art products and handicrafts from different Egyptian governorates. It lasts until 15th of October. The exhibition, which is being held for the third year, targets providing all means of support for heritage industries and the handicrafts sector. It seeks to expand the promotion of ancient Egyptian arts and to make their products available at commercial prices through the exhibition to encourage their spread and increase their distinctive production.
Welcome back. You're still watching the daily debate in the month of October and the month of victory. In 1973, the military victory of Egypt against Israel. We are witnessing more achievements, as we did see in the past report. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi inaugurating the third edition of Turathuna, or Our Heritage exhibition in the fifth settlement. And of course, the main topic for tonight on the daily debate will be the aid or the help and the arrangements between Egypt and Lebanon to be sending and supporting Lebanon with the Egyptian gas through the Arab gas pipeline running through Jordan and Syria to be alleviating the crisis of energy in the country. And to be shedding more light on this important topic, I'm honored to be having with me on the daily debate Mr. Salah Hafez, the Vice Chairman of the Egyptian General Petroleum Corporation and the former Chairman of the Environmental Agency. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on the daily debate.
Thank you.
First of all, we are in the month of October, 1973 war victory. How did you live this moment?
Well, it was quite thrilling, and after, at the beginning, we didn't believe what was going on because we had bad experience in 76, but it grew on us, you know,
67.
In my generation. It grew on us, and then we found out that it was a true victory. So we got more and more affected by the thrill of winning a victory against the enemy that we thought that it's unbeatable.
Do you feel the same excitement nowadays under the tenure of President al-Sisi in the past 7 or 8 years, the development, the pace of constructing cities, of building a new capital? Do you have the same excitement?
Very much so, very much so. I never expected, because I was at one point of time in charge of the environment, so it's quite a senior position in the government, and I had lots of ideas that I never thought, and I introduced some ideas in my area of speciality, but they were very negative toward making any courageous decision. Like removing subsidy. This was a dream of many energy experts, because without removing the subsidy, you cannot identify the problem. You cannot tell, you know, the real problem of energy in the country. So you have to move mechanisms that introduces just alleviation processes to calm down the situation. So the Egyptian pound versus the dollar, for instance. There are certain decisions that I never thought that they will be taken in Egypt here, that aggressively and that promptly, and it is indeed things like that are creating a critical mass toward developing the country as we all wanted it.
How do you see the success of the country under the leadership of President al-Sisi in implementing the economic reform program in general, for the sake of the citizens, for the sake of Egypt, and despite the coronavirus pandemic?
Well, actually, President al-Sisi is not after praise or after popularity. And this is a very important thing. If you're after popularity, and then you will do things that only political. But to decide on solving all the relics of the past, of mechanisms that were just giving tranquilizers to the people. They were all addressed, all fronts. He addressed all fronts, like the squatter buildings in the country, the transportation. There are certain things that are very important to get rid of. And it was accumulating and creating negative critical mass towards drowning us. So at one point of time, many people lost hope that certain things would be, because people took it as benefits, not really right benefit to consider. But you know, if you're getting something for free, you want it always for free.
Yes.
If you're getting things that you don't deserve or didn't earn, you consider it as
you get used to it.
Get used to it. And this was the difficult part, like the traditions in Egypt of families living together. The mentality.
Changing the mentality.
The culture. The culture that they developed over the years. Families have to live together in the same house, so they all live in the same area. They don't like, if you compare to other countries, developed countries, usually after a certain age, youth go and live alone and face life independently.
Yes.
But here, there were certain style of life, style of consumption, a style of culture that they took it over the years. They bequeathed to them.
Complacency,
being relaxed. So they're all changing. And this is the most difficult part to my mind. And of course, the aggressive in developing the country, in building, in housing, in transportation, logistics, you name it. It's very, very exciting, really.
Yes, and one of the things that we did see today that says that we have better relations with Africa under the tenure of President Al-Sisi is the meeting of President Al-Sisi with the counterpart from South Sudan, Salva Kiir. How do you see the foreign agenda of President Al-Sisi in general, focusing on Africa and the bilateral ties with the African continent?
I see it very objectively. In the past, it was very subjectively. You know, if you don't like a leader, you just work against the leader. But now it's very objective in defining the relation, the foreign relation with the neighboring countries, African countries, in the groups, the different groups of allies, you know, as it were. So it's very well conceived foreign policy, and not to tread on the toes of others in a way, looking always for the benefits of the people of Egypt and the people of this region, which is in a very, very objective way, the way I see it.
Yes, and for the sake of the benefit of the people of Egypt, we saw yesterday President Al-Sisi inaugurating the Turathuna, or Our Heritage exhibition. It is specifically made the exhibition for people from all over Egypt and Africa and the Arab world to be showcasing their talents in handicrafts and showcasing their cultures and even the clothing, the way of clothing of every country, from Jordan to Egypt and Sinai and Nubia. How did he see the importance of holding such an exhibition and the presence of His Excellency during the inauguration?
Very, very important. It's a key move to getting the people together and making the people develop and emit culture that they have inside, and they want to take it outside. Energy, inherent energy in a lot of people now. It's giving the leeway for it to come at the surface and to excel in developing ideas and culture that it was dormant at one point of time. So this is very conducive to doing things like that, to have the real positive energy within the people to come out.
Yes, energy from the people, as we will be focusing on the main topic for tonight on the Daily Debate, the energy for the people from Egypt to Lebanon, as the arrangements are underway between Egypt and Lebanon to be sending and supporting Lebanon with the Egyptian gas coming through the Arab gas pipeline from Egypt, running through Jordan, Syria, all the way to Lebanon. We'll be having more details in the upcoming report, so let's see it.
Under the directives of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, Minister of Petroleum announced earlier last week that Egypt will export natural gas to Lebanon in the coming weeks. The statement came after talks last week with his Lebanese counterpart, Walid Fayyad, where they discussed a roadmap for supplying Lebanon with Egyptian gas, including all technical, commercial, and contractual aspects, as well as the supply mechanism. These discussions were held after nearly a month of the agreement of the Arab gas pipeline countries Egypt, Jordan, Syria and Lebanon on September 8th to deliver Egyptian natural gas to Lebanon via Jordan and Syria. Lebanon suffers from a crisis in fuel and electricity within a severe economic crisis, which makes a room for questioning who would pay for exporting the gas to the Lebanese lands. Previously, the U.S. ambassador to Lebanon, Dorothy Shea, announced that negotiations are underway with the World Bank to secure financing for the price of Egyptian gas to Lebanon. Egyptian gas contributes to feeding the Deir Ammar plant in northeastern Lebanon with a capacity of about 450 megawatts. Deir Ammar lab provides more than 4 hours of electrical power supply to the Lebanese citizens. Exporting Egyptian natural gas to Lebanon via Jordan began in 2009 until it stopped in 2011 after pipelines were damaged during the Syrian civil war and sabotage attacks. Syrian Minister of Oil and Mineral Resources Bassam Tohmi considered the Arab gas pipeline project one of the most important joint Arab cooperation projects. Syria agreed to transfer Egyptian gas and Jordanian electricity to Lebanon through lines that pass through Syrian territory.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate. Mr. Salah, Hafez, speaking of the support given by Egypt to Lebanon to be sending the Egyptian natural gas through the Arab gas pipeline to the country, how do you see this step?
They suffered. Lebanon is a very special area, but unfortunately the Lebanese are not looking after it well. But as a nation, it's very important for Egypt and for the Arab world. So they suffered a lot, and there were because of the split inside their system.
Yes.
Is not very healthy for politics. And they took the first step in looking for the potential of the gas in their country. They had problems with the neighboring country, Israel, about the borders, the line that separates the two international waters. And so this is creating a problem. And politically, Nasrallah, they were pro. Of course, they're getting all the help from Iran. So when the problem started in Lebanon, they had a severe problem of energy because they import all the energy, and the lira went plunged down quite dramatically, and the reserves of foreign currency was not available. So they start having some hiccups at the beginning, and now it's a disaster, the energy in Lebanon. And so Nasrallah stepped in and decided to ask the help from, they're using fuel oil, and some of the power generation stations are dual energy source. They can use gas or fuel oil. So they were getting fuel oil. It's very bad fuel. Because of the climate change. Quality. It creates sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide, and it's a very dirty, many countries.
For
it's
the
like
environment too.
For the environment and for the climate change. So their gas also produces carbon dioxide, but much less.
Less amount. Yes.
Less amount. So they were going to get gas from Iran and supports Hezbollah. So this was creating a lot havoc within the system of this very important area. And Egypt is planning to have Egypt as a hub, gas hub, to get and export and transport and liquefy the energy, the small importers in the area, to sitting beside nearby giants, which is Europe. And there are big producers like Qatar and Iran in the area. And Iran, they have sanctions, so they have excess gas that they can provide to Lebanon. So this was very critical, becoming very critical issue in the area. So here Egypt came in and offered quite elaborate process, because the pipeline goes to Jordan, has always been through the
Yes.
the Aqaba Gulf of Aqaba, and then through Jordan to they cannot go straight to, because they don't have access to the Mediterranean, so they went through Syria, and with the problems of Syria, and also the support of Iran to Syria. So to iron out all these problems and impediments and get all the way to Lebanon and provide them with enough energy and to replace other alternatives that were not very popular, you know, in politically. This was quite an achievement to my mind.
Do you think it had a strong pace, a fast pace, despite the challenges? How did he do it?
Well, all transactions now, they go through a fast track. Amazing. Like developing the developing of Dohr, for instance.
Yes.
It broke all records, like Mo Salah breaking all the records. No, really, it was the fast track is amazing in the country these days. There are some, of course, mistakes. You cannot do a perfect job with such a pace. But personally, I'm very happy with the quality in general. But the pace is amazing, very impressive.
What is the importance of Egypt being an energy hub in the region?
Of course, there is a lot of Egypt is sitting next to Europe. Europe, they like to mix sources of energy. They don't want, because to be sustainable.
They don't rely on one source.
They don't rely on one source. The countries contiguous to Russia, they get all their needs from Russia.
Yes.
On the other hand, the farthest away is England. They get something like, they started getting some gas from Russia. Russia sends the gas in pipelines, and they have little liquefaction, because you have to have a combination between land source like pipeline and you know, because the logistic of gas is not like the liquid fuel. You cannot store in quantities, but the logistics of liquefying and moving gives a breathing space for the countries to manage the quantity. The quantity in the winter, they use more energy.
Yes.
In the summer, they use less energy. The Corona time, they had to use less energy. Now, it's after getting over the Corona, a lot of demand had occurred. That's why the price of gas went sky high. So it's supply and demand but in the gas, more importantly, the logistics of the gas. Because theoretically, when the gas is produced, you process it to get the right, the quality you need, and then put it in the pipeline or the liquefied and send it to the end
destination
user. Yeah. The oil you can store, and the logistics is much easier to deal with liquid fuel. So this is the problem in Europe concerning the gas.
So the natural
Egypt
gas
came in.
must be used when it is produced?
Yeah, theoretically. But in the States, for instance, they managed to make storages, underground storages in depleted fields and caverns, salt caverns. They make caverns within the salt, and because the northern part of the States, the market in the States with Henry Hub there is a separate market altogether, and they produce enough for forget about the shale oil, the shale gas, enough for the use inside. They can export because they have quadrillions of cubic feet. So anyway, in Egypt here, Egypt is the adjustment that can occur within small importers, large importers, small
the in-between link.
The in-between with perfect logistics, but they have to be upgraded all the time and become the standards that we need internationally. But it is logistically, it's adjusting, like Cyprus and Israel. They want to export. They're talking about the line that they want to have through all the way to Italy, and then they take it to Bulgaria. And this is in the deepest part of the Mediterranean. And historically, they never laid a pipeline that deep anywhere in the world. So, and they think that it will take a lot of money and a big investment and some years and years to complete. So Egypt came just timely, and with the logistics they have, the pipelines, the network, and the liquefaction and the gasification, they can receive liquefied and gasify and put it in the pipeline. So we're ideally located and ideally equipped to take this task in this part of the world.
So we have potential, but is this deal considered an achievement, a triumph for Egypt?
It works. It's not the type of project that you just make a Gantt chart and develop it, and you have landmarks and get it done. It depends very much on the variables. There are lots of variables. There's a price war all the time. There is cost. And so if you invest in certain area, they may become obsolete before you use it. So there are certain dynamics that can make this. The first thing is a law. And we've done the law perfectly well to deal for private sector to deal with the gas. In the past, it was only the government. Now it's so if it's the time and motion of the dynamics in the area of importing gas, the gas is the only fossil fuel that is foreseen to grow until sometime in the future. The other fossil fuels and the coal, they're going down. So the fact that there's growth and depletion, natural depletion, and more popular energy source, this gives it certain dynamics that we are taking the best advantage of those dynamics timely. It's very important to do it timely, and that's why I think we're progressing well, and with some luck and a lot of work, Egypt can be a very important gas hub in the area.
But how do you think Lebanon will be able to pay for the Egyptian gas?
I have no idea. I don't
Are there
know.
any guarantees?
I don't know. I don't know. But I'm sure they will pay. I mean, because they'll they pay for the fuel oil, but they have problems these days. But eventually, I'm sure there is a good deal both countries have to take advantage of this help.
Yes. The gas will be transferred through the Arab gas pipeline through Jordan and Syria. What is the importance of having this pipeline, and who are the members of it?
Well, the pipelines, there is a company that owns it, and they get, if it goes through any country, they get right of way. So it affects the price a little bit, but this is deals, Europe, country pipelines everywhere.
Yes.
It's just like a web inside the Europe, you know. So there is a certain liquefaction is easier because you liquefy and move, put it, reduce the size 1/60th of the original size.
You condensed.
Yeah, so
Yes.
it becomes liquid.
Yes.
That's why it's liquefied. And then you move it, and then you gasify. When you liquefy, you need energy. When you gasify, you emit energy in temperature, for instance. So this is it's developing the liquefaction plants, and is developing very rapidly all over the world because pipelines are cheaper or less expensive to a certain range.
Yes.
And then liquefaction become more cost effective. And plus the time and the dynamics of logistics you can adjust by using. But pipelines like Ukraine, the Ukraine war, was because of most of this area, the weather is good. It's not unlike the northern part, and they were going through Ukraine to Europe. So Ukraine was taking advantage. The problem of Algeria and Morocco. Algeria was transporting through Morocco to Spain. Now they have problem doing so because of they severed the relations between the two countries. So they're looking into complementing the liquefaction plants in order to use liquefaction to move to Spain, which is almost next door. So the geopolitics of the importation and exportation and transportation of gas is very important and involves a lot of money and finance.
How do you think the Arab gas pipeline would be secured now between Egypt and Syria? Because Egypt used to be transferring gas through this pipeline to Syria until 2011. How do you think we could be securing those pipelines now?
Well, it's beyond my area. I don't know, but there must be a very stringent system, you know, to do this because, like the problems we had after the 2011 in Egypt here.
Yes.
You know, we were getting a lot of damages in our pipeline.
Destroying those pipelines, yes.
Yeah. So there must be a very stringent system in securing those pipelines. And this, again, doesn't need the army to do it. It has to be conceived, you know, with different parties and different groups, you know.
Ever since the Beirut port blast, Egypt is trying to help Lebanon. On the other hand, the West is trying not to help Lebanon in terms of not releasing aid, in terms of having or requesting a program to be fighting corruption and unemployment first and then releasing the aid. Egypt in itself, how do you weigh the support given by the country to Lebanon and on the other hand the response of the West?
You know, I have encountered problems like this during my job when I was in charge of the environment, because all agreements, they include human rights, animal rights, women's rights. They always put things that they don't mind violate, but they don't want us, they put pressure on developing countries to get what they want at the end. So it's double standards in many ways. So things like that, they always, like the sanctions, unless you do this, we will not remove the sanctions. And they put pressure. So the pressure is put for two reasons. To get benefits out of that, and at the same time to adjust the market. Because if when Iran was put under sanctions and they didn't produce all the 5 million barrels or the 4 million barrels oil they produced, they allowed them only to produce 500,000 barrels per day.
Yes.
Versus the 4 million that they can produce per day. So there must be a black market. There must be under the table deals, a lot of paper deals, and the price, the demand will be more than the supply is not enough. The price goes up. If you want to get it down, they can get it down and fill their strategic reserves. Big countries do that. So the dynamics of the liquid is different, and hence the mechanisms they use is all geopolitics and force and wars and everything.
If we return to Egypt, but within the same sector, the same field and the same industry, the head of the petrochemicals holding company, he said that we have a plan between 2020 and 2035. We have a lot of projects that will be implemented within this period. How do you see this plan?
Well, it's the future is for the petrochemicals, but the problem is the competition. The competition, because the gas now in Saudi Arabia, they still burn the gas, the excess gas. They instead of collecting it,
although it could be used.
It could be used. They burn the gas. In the 60s, all countries were burning the gas, just flare it. And Egypt was the first place in Africa to utilize the gas. This was in the 60s and 70s when I started my career in the oil business. So this is very important point that you raised. Saudi Arabia, they have petrochemical industries, and the feedstock is almost for free. So they can afford to sell products less than any other country in the area. Because the alternative is to, instead of getting it and converting it into ethylene or methylene or, for the petrochemical feedstock, we can export it. So exporting will improve the balance of payment and the budget and the rest of it. So this area is still, countries are trying to put a price tag on all process in order, for the competition worldwide. Like the WTO, the main purpose of the World Trade Organization is to move all subsidies and supports of financially for the product to be competitive quality-wise and price-wise. So they're trying to do this in the petrochemical industry, but our plan to develop our petrochemical industry is also very impressive.
Yes, Egypt achieved self-sufficiency in gas in 2018, and we are set to be reaching the same level in the petroleum products by 2023. How do you see such a potential achievement? It's multifaceted because to reach, like the States, they import about 10 million barrels oil per day, but the net is exporting, because you can have the crude and you can add value and sell it with added value, so you can convert the added value into quantities. So this is a very, very
ambitious planning, but I think it's attainable.
How do you think we increased the amount of, or the volume of the exports in the petroleum products in the past 8 years?
Well, say that again?
How did we increase the volume or the amount of exports in the petroleum products in the past 8 years?
Well, we have always been importing and exporting, and as I said, it's the importing. If you refine it, for instance, the plant in Mustorod, Egypt, hydrocrackers. You know, you have crude and you have gas and all products in between. So if you upgrade, it's as if you're adding value to one product. So you're getting more yield from the original. So if you keep improving in the yield of the processing and the refining and cutting into more efficiency equipment to use for energy. So the added value at the end, you get the maximum out of something. Normally, if you sell it as is, it's a loss. But if you turn it into petrochemicals, refining, you add value. At the end, you become, instead of net importer, you become net exporter in a way. So it's a very elaborate process, and in Egypt so far, judging and watching from behind, because I'm not in the system, it's very impressive.
In terms of the foreign direct investments, to be getting more investments in the field of petroleum or energy in general in Egypt, do you think that the Egypt has the potential to do that in the future?
Well, the potential was always there. I was in charge of the petroleum agreements, and during in the 80s, you attracted investment a lot. Egypt, when it is stable politically, you get direct foreign investment. If you're stable in the legislation, if you're stable if you avoid arbitration and act in a fair way, you attract investment. So Egypt now, politically, and we're in a very, very strong position. But the direct foreign investment, to my knowledge, is not going as well as we hoped to have, because of the problems in the area, all problems in the area, and the general mood is not good. But we're working hard to develop it.
But the mood is well here in Egypt, especially in the month of October. Mr. Salah Hafez, the Vice Chairman of the Egyptian General Petroleum Corporation and the former Chairman of the Environmental Agency, thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
And this brings us to the end of the Daily Debate for tonight. Thank you for watching and goodbye.